Hello and a very good day everyone. So today we will learn on Power Query. If we look in this particular file over here, we do have multiple tables. Question table 1 transaction, question table 2 customer history, and our desired result in another table. So if we look carefully on question table 1 transaction, in this particular table we do have three different columns. The date for each transaction, customer ID, quantity. Meanwhile, in question table 2 customer history, we have the customer details, which includes the date, customer ID and state. Basically, it gives us the detail of customer states which changes according to the period. For example, from 1st July 2023 onwards, the state for customer C2 is NSW. However, from 22nd November onwards, the state for customer ID C2 is WA. So basically our intention is we need to calculate the total sales for each states. However, if we notice over here, the customer states are changes according to the period. So basically we need to extract the sums for each sales as per the state based on the real-time customer state. So now how to do it? Well, in this case we will use Power Query to calculate the state and each sales. So let's get started. So now the first thing is what I'm going to do is I need to import this data to the Power Query. So I go to data and then I go to from table/range. So once I click this, you will notice that a box will appear. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press OK and then it will go to the Power Query editor. So this is the Power Query editor, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to press close and load to, and I want to load to as a connection only. So I'm going to click here close and load to, and I want to only create a connection and press OK. So once I press OK, so you will notice that a connection has been created for table 1. So I'm going to do the same thing for table 2, which is the customer history. I go to data and then I go to from table/range. So I click this and I press OK, and then you will notice we will go to Power Query editor. So this is where table 2 has been imported to the Power Query. So this is the data. So what is the next step is I just want to merge these two tables. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click here merge queries, merge query as new, and then you will notice a big box will appear. So I will start with table 2 and then over here I'll start with table 1. But if you notice carefully, we cannot press OK. So I need to choose a common column. So I start with date, I press customer ID, I press date here, and I press shift and click on customer ID. So with that, we do have the common columns. So I'm not going to choose left outer, I want to choose full outer. And then you will notice here there is no matches, and I'm going to press OK. So now what we're going to do is we're going to click this arrow over here to expand, and then I will take the untick use original column and I'm going to press OK. So once I press OK, so we'll notice carefully the two tables have been consolidated. So what I want to do is I want to combine the two dates into one column, and also I want to combine the two customer columns into one column. So I'll do what? I'll go to add column, I click on conditional column. So I'll just go here, conditional column, and then you will notice that a box will appear. So a box will appear. So here I'll put as updated date, and then the column name is date. Okay, so if date equals to null, then it should be equivalent to date 1. Otherwise, it should be equivalent to the original date. So I'll just press OK, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to press here right click, and then I just go to move to the beginning. Okay, so if you notice over here, we have combined both columns into one. And then what I'm going to do is I want to format this as a date format. Okay, so it's already formatted as a date format. So I'm going to do the same thing for the customer column, since we do have two customer column, customer ID and customer ID 1. So I want to merge these two columns into one. So I go to conditional column, a box will appear. So this one is customer ID updated, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click here customer ID, and if it is equals to null, then it should be equivalent to the other customer column, and then otherwise it should reflect the original customer ID. So I'm going to click this. So there you go. So I'm going to press OK. So once I press OK, so there you go. So I'm going to do the same thing, right click and move to the beginning. Okay, so I'll just adjust accordingly. So here you go. So here we have the updated date, here we have the customer ID updated, and then we want the states and also the quantity. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to home, and then I will go to choose column. So I only want to select 4 columns only. So I untick this, updated date, customer ID, and then after that states and then quantity, and then I press OK. So now you'll notice we do have these 4 different columns. So what's the next step is, the next step what I'm going to do is I want to sort the customer ID. So I sort the customer ID in ascending order. So now this is how it looks like, and I also want to sort the date in ascending order. So now this is how it looks like. And then what we'll do is select this column, right click, and then I go to fill down. So when I press fill down, so now this is how it looks like. Okay, so then what I want to do is basically I want to calculate the sum of each state. So I go to transform, I go to group by, and then what I'm going to do is, so basically it will group by the states, and then here I want to put as quantities, and this one by sum and sum of quantity, and I press OK. So here you go. So here we will calculate the sum of sales for each particular state. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to home, and then I'll click close and load to, and then what I'll do is I'll press here only create connection, and I press OK. So now you'll notice all the data has been loaded as a connection only. So what I'm going to do is I'll just go here and I put my cursor in L2, I press here right click, I go to load to. So I press load to, and then I press table, and I press OK. So now if you notice carefully, it has been loaded as a table format. So if you look here, TA is 155, NSW is 383, and then SA is 46, and there you go. So basically we are able to extract the sum of the sales for each state based on real-time customer state.